Hey everybody, good afternoon. Happy Thursday. Hope you guys are doing well today. We've got week 13 on the horizon for the NFL season, and as I like to do every week now that we know that this Seahawks team is actually something something notable, we go through the games and talk about what we want to happen, what is in the best interest of the team to happen, and why. So we got a game coming up in a few hours here, the Thursday night game. So I'm going to go ahead and push this out. Now, even though I have to admit, I'm just going to say this straight up. I can't figure out a way this game matters to us at all. We've got the Bills at New England playing the Patriots. I can't figure it out. Neither team plays the Broncos this year, so there's no strength of schedule. Two AFC teams, nothing to do with us making the playoffs. And neither team is in play for a top pick, so it's not like they're going to jump ahead of Denver's pick in the draft. So I got nothing. If you guys got something, let me know. But you're going to have to dig deep, I think. So root for whoever you want to root for tonight, is what I'm trying to say here. And yeah, that's a rare one where there's nothing, I don't think, nothing to really care about except for whichever team you happen to like more. So do what you will. All right. That gets us to Sunday. Obviously, Seahawks Rams, we all know what we want there. I'm not really going to talk about that. You guys know. This is for the other games. All right. So, first game of interest will be Steelers Falcons. So, the Steelers got their fourth win last week, which I talked about a little bit a couple days ago. That's crucial. These teams getting to win number four is big because I have a feeling Denver is not going to Denver's not going to get there. So any team that gets to four wins is automatically going to be picking below wherever Denver's pick is. But nevertheless, we may as well root for them again just as a cushion. And also they're playing the Falcons, who, let me, to be clear, I believe that the Falcons are sunk, but they may as well get sunk a little bit more while we're here. So if the Falcons lose this game, they'll have 8 losses. They've still got a game against Tampa and still got a game against Baltimore. If they can't beat Pittsburgh at home, and by the way, the Steelers are actually favored in this game, so it may very well happen, you can really cross them off. You can really just throw them in the garbage and forget about them. And even though the Falcons are unlikely to threaten a playoff spot, they do have the tiebreaker on us. So you may as well bury them. There's no reason not to root for it, right? It's better for everybody. Pittsburgh's pick moves down a little bit, and Atlanta's pushed out of the playoff race. So, yeah, we're Steelers fans for that one. Yeah. All right. Next 10 a.m. game, Packers-Bears. This is an opportunity for the Bears to maybe get that one win that I've been talking about. Now, they don't have to get it, but it sure would be nice just in case. Now, if you look at Tankathon, you'll see that the Bears are one of the teams that is picking ahead of Denver's pick, but it's only because they played one extra game because they haven't had their bye week yet. Their strength of schedule is significantly stronger than Denver's, so once Chicago gets their bye week and is on the same playing field as Denver, their pick is going to bump below Denver's. So I think it's going to work out, but just in case Denver wins a game at the end of the year here, like they could beat the Rams, it would help if the Bears could score one more win just to make sure their pick gets pushed down a little bit more. I'm pretty sure that if the Bears have 4 wins and the Broncos have 4 wins, Denver's pick is going to be ahead of where Chicago picks because they have a significant SOS advantage. And meanwhile, you have the Packers, who I think are dead, but if you want to throw some dirt on them, you may as well root against them. There's no reason not to, right? Even though they're probably already dead, you can't, there's nothing wrong with a double tap. We know the Bears are dead. They're not going to make the playoffs. Next up, we have Jacksonville and Detroit. Little bit of a toilet bowl, even though both teams are actually playing a little bit better lately. And looking at this one, you've got 2 teams that have 4 wins. So the good news is, whichever team wins is going to push their pick down far enough to where they're not going to be anywhere near where Denver's going to pick. You can see Jacksonville's actually picking 11, Detroit's picking 13. Whoever wins this game is going to be picking down in the mid to maybe even, I don't want to say late teens, but probably the mid-teens, and it's going to be so much ground to make up. So the question is, which one? Well, first of all, the Lions are in the NFC, and they are technically technically still alive in the playoff race. We may as well get one more loss on their ledger if we can to make sure they can't get in. They can't, like, steal something from Seattle. The Lions would probably have to win out to steal anything from Seattle because they would need to get to 10 wins and hope we only get 9, and we own the tiebreaker anyway. But on top of that, both these teams have the same record, but as you can see, Jacksonville's picking higher because they have a worse strength of schedule, meaning they are more likely to end up in a scenario where they're picking ahead of Denver because their strength of schedule is closer. So I think it behooves us to just go ahead and say Jacksonville. We're Jacksonville fans for this game. Now, Jacksonville did play Denver this year, so Jacksonville winning does slightly boost Denver's strength of schedule, but I think that's far outweighed by the other factors at play here. So yeah, I think we are hoping the Jags can get another win here, finish off the Lions for good. Then we have the Jets and the Vikings. I'm not thinking about catching the Vikings. We're 3 games back. Vikings still have to play the Packers, the Bears, and the Lions once each, I think. So they basically got 12 wins in their back pocket. We're not catching the Vikings. Now, you could still root against the Vikings because the Jets are an AFC team, but I actually think it's better for the Jets to lose because the Jets played the Broncos. Jets' losses are going to drag down Denver's strength of schedule. And as you can see, they're actually only ahead of the Rams pick, or behind the Rams pick rather, by a tiny scrap of strength of schedule. So I'm going to actually say may as well root for the Vikings or nobody. It's a very small consideration, admittedly, but we're not catching the Vikings, so I'm not thinking about wanting them to lose so we can catch them. It's not on the table. This is the big one. This is a big one right here. Commanders versus Giants. So whoever we want to lose this game, and right now I'm going to say it's probably the Giants. Whoever ends up losing this game is the team that we hope falls apart. That's what I can say about that. Whoever loses this game is the team we're going to be monitoring closely these last few weeks to hope that they completely fall apart to just allow us to waltz into the playoffs, not make it stressful at the end. And you look at the Giants' schedule, they're the team that makes sense. They've already lost 2 in a row, including getting kind of killed by the Lions. They've still got to play the Eagles twice. They've got to play the Commanders again. They've got to play the Vikings. So that Giants team, to me, you look at their remaining schedule, is poised to fall apart and go like 8-9. Commanders, a little bit of an easier schedule remaining, and I think they're playing better right now. So I believe we are rooting for the Commanders here, but whoever loses is the team that we want to just go to pieces down the stretch. Just make it a little bit easier, a little bit less stressful, reduce the NFC to 7 playoff teams. That way, Seattle gets in, even if things don't go our way in some of these future games, like Kansas City, like San Fran, like even the Jets. So I think we're going to pull for the Commanders, though. Titans-Eagles. This is very similar to the Vikings-Jets. Yes, AFC versus NFC, but we're not catching the Eagles. We're just not. The Eagles, they've still got to play the Giants twice. That's at least 1, probably 2 wins. And I believe they still have a couple other games against soft teams. I remember looking at their schedule earlier this year, and it was tissue paper soft, man. It was Charmin soft. So we're not catching the Eagles. The Titans played the Broncos. Therefore, I think we want the Eagles to win. So the Titans Titans hurt the Broncos' strength of schedule. That's my read. Speaking of the Broncos, we've got them against the Ravens. No brainer here. Of course, we will be rooting for Denver to lose the rest of the way, and I'll say it again, I believe it is going to happen. And just to reiterate what I said a couple days ago in my video, if they do, I believe they are locked into the number 2 pick. Because if they lose out, that means they lost to the Rams, so the Rams pick gets pushed down, and at worst, they're going to be tied with Chicago, and Chicago's strength of schedule is currently almost 8 points higher. So it would be very, very hard for Chicago's strength of schedule to fall enough to go below where Denver's strength of schedule is. So I believe that it is almost guaranteed we get the number 2 pick if Denver loses out, rather. So we're close, guys. And I believe it's going to happen, so buckle up. Last 10 a.m. game, Browns versus the Texans. Again, we just need the Texans to find a way to a couple of wins here. Unfortunately, it needs to be two. It can't be one. And I don't believe they have it in them, but we're going to continue to hope that it happens. They do play the Jags. They do play the Colts. And this Browns team they're catching here. The Browns, they won last week, but it's not a very good team. And I will say this. I will say this for the Browns. Deshaun Watson coming back this week. Little bit of a maybe revenge game for the Houston Texans for the way he left them high and dry. And he might be rusty. So maybe there's an opportunity here for Houston to do something. I doubt it. And honestly, the Browns winning another game is not the worst thing in the world because they're only at 4 wins. Just in case Denver wins a game, Cleveland would push their pick, which is currently sitting at number 10, down a little bit more, away from where Denver's going to pick. So it's not the worst thing in the world, but yes, we are hoping that Houston can find a win here. And that gets us to the afternoon slate. This is another big one. This is a big one in terms of our division hopes. If the Niners beat the Dolphins in this game, I think the division is going to be pretty much, I don't want to say it's over because we still play the Niners, but if you look at the remaining schedules, if the 49ers beat the Dolphins, I think their road is relatively clear, and I think they are probably, we would basically have no margin for error. Let me put it that way. I'm not going to say it'll be over, but we would have basically no margin for error. We'd have to beat the Niners, and then we'd have to probably have the Niners lose one more game, and we could only afford to lose the Chiefs game. So, big one right here. We need the Dolphins to come through if we want any hope at the division title, I believe. It's going to be very thin if the 49ers take care of business, because they've already swept the Rams, and I believe they're likely to sweep the Cardinals, so the division record's going to be good. All right, last few games here. We got Chiefs-Bengals. Not a big deal. Not a big game necessarily. I will say the Broncos played the Chiefs twice this year, so if the Chiefs lose, the Broncos' strength of schedule will take a small hit. That helps their pick value. So we're rooting for the Bengals just for that. That's the only way I can see this game mattering, AFC versus AFC. Another afternoon game, Chargers-Raiders. I guess we want the Raiders to win, just because the Raiders pick is still hanging around in the top 10. If the Broncos win one more game, you can see that their strength of schedule is noticeably higher than Vegas's. So if Vegas and Denver end up in a tie, Vegas's pick would probably be higher because of their inferior strength of schedule. So Raiders may as well pack in another win. Get to the Sunday night game, you got Colts and Cowboys. No reason not to root for the Colts. Cowboys might still have that December collapse in them. It's possible. They could be a team that fades. I think it's very unlikely, but no reason to not root for it. It's still on the table, and we probably want the Colts to win anyway, just in case. They're another team that has 4 wins. Possible they end up competing with Denver for a draft pick. It might come down to something. It might come down to half a game because of their tie. So, yeah, may as well root for the Colts. Saints and Bucks, another game. Probably doesn't matter that much, but you may as well hope the Saints find a way. Tampa Bay, they're lingering around. It's not a very good team, but they do own the tiebreaker. There is a universe where Atlanta wins the division, and Tampa Bay needs to compete for a wild card spot. They own the tiebreaker on Seattle. They could get in over us. Very unlikely at this point, but I'm not completely removing it from consideration. And hey, the Saints, they got 4 wins. If Denver wins another game, you've got a very close strength of schedule battle between Denver and New Orleans' pick. So Philly could end up picking ahead of us just by the sliver of a strength of schedule tiebreaker. So may as well root for the Saints to get one more win to basically take that off the board. And that's it for Week 13. Definitely some interesting games. This is a great opportunity for the NFC to narrow itself down a little bit further by kicking out a team like the Falcons completely. To a certain extent, the Packers and Lions, as unlikely as they are. And it'll also give us a little bit of a clue on which NFC playoff contender is likely to fade down the stretch. Right? Like I said, Giants Commanders, that's kind of the big one for me. All right, I'll see you guys later. Go Hawks. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you disagree with any of this. But that's the way I see it right now for Week 13. Should be a Hawks Nest stream tonight previewing the Rams game, by the way. Hope to see you there. And yeah, go Hawks.